Lord, oh, they brought us to this country as a labor force. We built a foundation and they hate us for it. They hate us for it. We built a foundation and they ain't pay us for it. They ain't pay us for it, but they gon' pay for it. Already prayed for it. Non-believers didn't pray for us. Non-believers didn't pray for us. We're black and we built a foundation. Stone by stone, generation to generation. Vultures said we had no culture. Them vultures got a Jay-Z poster. Them vultures got a lacy culture. Vultures eat what they didn't kill. Vultures sleep what they didn't build. They brought us to this country as a labor force. We built a foundation and they hate us for it. We built a foundation and they ain't pay us for it. They ain't pay for it, but they gon' pay for it. Already paid for it. Nobody prayed for it. Nobody didn't pray for us. Nobody didn't pray for us. We're black and we built a foundation. Stone by stone, generation to generation. Vultures said we had no culture. And vultures got a Jay-Z poster. Them vultures got a lacy poster.
Grand rising to the family. Let me get up and running. News and updates. All right. All right, all right. Oh shit. Oh my, that's crazy. That fast. I got disconnected. Fresh always, you dig, living culture, 100%. This is crazy. I get kicked off. All right, here we are. Let's tackle a couple things here. Grand rising to the family, grand rising. All right, let me tackle a couple things here. First and foremost, there is no nation of people who are more lazier than the white tea man. Okay, they never got anything out the mud. Everything was always gifted to them. Unearned income has been their story. And you can go as far as back to the Homestead Acts of 1862, all the way down to the 1930s, right? Where the government, after we, foundational Black Americans, after the people from the soul line, the soul lineage, after we cleared the land, all the bushes, trees, tree stumps, swamps, we dried the swamps, after we made it just habitable land. We can grow stuff on and build stuff on. When we cleared the land, they said, okay, move out the way. And they decided to give a lot of that land. They incentivized people from Britain to come to America, I'm sure other places, to take advantage of that land that we just cleared, right? It's called the 1862 Homestead Act, where they gave 270 million, okay, 27 million acres of land, all right, to these new European, Western European immigrants coming to the country, as long as they tilled the land for like 3 to 5 years, something like that. Now, while they did that, what did we get? Nothing. We cleared the land and got nothing. We were excluded from this land grab, right? And people who did absolutely nothing for it were just gifted land. It worked out to 160 acres apiece. Now, that created a multi-trillion-dollar head start for whitey man. Okay. Why is this in my way? That created a multi-trillion-dollar head start for the whitey man and their families that still exists today. So the wealth gap started way back then, 1862. So when we hear people come into our FBA spaces, especially from Africa or the Caribbean, and they be trying to compare us to anybody financially or even to the whitey man, we'd be like, are you dumb? Like, how can you compare us to a robber that got away with it legally until now, taking from us and basically, yeah, just robbing us for what hours and they living off it. So to come with that is obviously disrespectful. They had many laws and rules to keep this wealth gap the way it is and keep depriving and restricting and excluding Foundation Black Americans for gaining wealth and having home ownership or land ownership. So you can go all the way back to the early 1900s zoning laws, where you had zoning laws where if you were black, you were zoned out. You couldn't live in those zones, right? And that was the beginning of, or the HOLC 1933 was the beginning of the redlining. Okay, so the HOLC was next. You had the FHA in 1934, the Federal Housing Administration, which refused to insure mortgages in or near black neighborhoods, but they ensured that the government backed these mortgages for whitey man. And look at the time frame. This is right after the Great Depression. So the whitey man is down bad again. He couldn't lift him up by his boost. He couldn't lift himself up by his bootstraps. So he was given another bailout. 1933 HOLC, the Homeowners Loaners Corporation. And then you got the FHA. So the whitey man was down bad several times and never lifted up their own bootstraps, never got it from the mud, always relied on a bailout, government assistance, which we call welfare today. Nobody in this country has ever received more government assistance, welfare than whitey people. I'm talking about the history. Like they were the first recipients, and they are the last. Okay, so with the FHA, the HOLC, they literally drew red lines or maps around black communities, marking them as hazardous for investment. Right. So that goes to now with housing discrimination, redlining. Now, what happened with that? Again, white T families built wealth. As that happened, they're giving these loans to buy houses. Again, so we got the Homestead Act, 160 acres, 270 million altogether. And now another bailout plan. HOLC, FHA, houses, money for houses. Ain't got to pay it back no time soon. It's government back. If you default, don't worry about it. The insurance companies were told, don't worry about it. I'm sorry, the banks were told, don't worry about it. We got you. Because the bank was like, nah, we ain't about to give loans to all these poor white people who ain't working. The government said, don't worry about it. We'll cover it. If they default, we will cover it. Okay. So as a result, white families built wealth through home equity in the suburbs, while our black families were forced into high interest contracts that built no equity. And in between that, you had the restrictive covenants that was going on at that time. All right. So then a few years later, we got the GI Bill exclusion in 1944. A massive New Deal for World War II veterans to get low cost mortgages and free college. So a lot of Black Americans could have made good off that, right? But the administration was left to they left it to southern states to disperse uh these programs. And obviously this is Jim Crow where you can legally discriminate. So it was a finesse. So what the government, what the white man do is this. They will have it as it's for everybody, but then be hands off. They'll give it to the states to run hey, it's for everybody, knowing the states are going to legally discriminate against foundational Black Americans. So that's what happened. The federal government didn't regulate, didn't oversee it, and there is nobody to tell if you didn't get free college or um, low cost mortgages. There was nobody to tell. The government was like, "Hey, man, too bad." So, of the first 67,000 mortgages in Mississippi, listen to me again. Listen to the number. Of the first 67,000 mortgages in Mississippi, only two went to Black veterans, right? So that wealth engine was for whites only. This was another wave. This was after HOLC, FHA in 1934. This is 10 years later. This is after 1862 Homestead Act giving away 270 million acres of land to the whitey people. So they've been given gifts. They've been gifted unearned income over and over and over. So it's no surprise they're going to finally click and have some wealth. It ain't like they actually built it themselves. They never got in the mud. They never became innovators and inventors when they got what their wealth like that. Nah, a lot of their wealth, as you see, was hand wrapped, gift wrapped, given to them. Meanwhile, we're by the way, all of that's going on and we're just thriving. Black banks, Black Wall Street, Black district, Black business districts, inventors, innovators, all that stuff is going on in the Black world. We're like, all right, whatever. And we're like really just getting it, right? But you would think they stopped there. Nope, they didn't stop there. They didn't stop there. They had the Federal Highway Act of 1956. So this is for something immigrants might want to consider when they come over running their mouth. So they were building the interstate highway system, right? Routes were intentionally mapped to run through thriving Black business districts like Black Wall Street areas. You dig? So this is for you immigrants that come from Africa or the Caribbean. When you run your mouth over here, you're running your mouth to real ones. Now we know you don't know about this stuff. You know you don't know no better. We know that, but we still gonna cook you. Okay, so the Federal Highway Act of 1956 routes were intentionally mapped to run through thriving Black business districts. Right, over 300,000 families were displaced, and thousands of profitable Black-owned businesses were demolished by eminent domain. Okay. What about the tax appraisal bias? It's still going on today. Local property tax on home appraisal systems. Research shows homes in Black American neighborhoods are consistently valued at 23% less than identical homes in white areas. So the same exact house, same acres, everything, 23% less. Okay. All because you're just Black. You're Black American. You are from the soul lineage. So it was nicknamed the Black tax. Like you were taxed for being Black American. Again, a immigrant has no Latino or African descent from Africa of the Caribbean. They have no knowledge of that. Like that right there, the Black tax. There's no Latino tax. There's no immigrant tax. Simply just being Black, the Black tax. It costs Black American homeowners roughly $48,000 per home in lost wealth. Money that cannot be passed down to the next generation as they are allowed to pass down to the next generation because the white man, at this point, the Irish were now seen as they assimilated to whiteness. You had the Jewish people assimilated to whiteness, and you had the Italians. So they're not excluded at this time. Matter of fact, when the HOLC, the FHA, all that was going on, that's when a lot of them became white tea. So they were not excluded from the GI Bill of 1944. They were actually included. So they can never compare themselves to us. Okay, so they might have been picked on and discriminated on, but when it came to wealth redistribution, they got their hands filled. They got their cups filled. So when immigrants come over here and gaslight us and say hard work can fix a legal system designed to liquidate Foundation Black American assets, designed to oppress us, right? Obviously, they're not dealing with 150 years of negative equity laws because we just read that 23% your house, 23% less your house was valued than a white T person. The black tax. All right. So we went through all of this. This is 1956. I started you from 1862. I showed you from 1862 the land exclusion, the land that we cleared, we made habitable, we made ready so you can build on, grow vegetation. We did that and we got none of it. All of it went to recent immigrants coming from Western and Northern Europe. So why? So look at the history of immigration when it pertains or relates to Black Americans. It started off rocky, horrible. So why will Black Americans ever be tolerant of immigration? Look at the Jim Crow, the systemic racism. Why will we ever be tolerant of white tea supremacy or systemic racism when all we know of it is that it caused harm? It caused harm in our communities. Why will we ever be tolerant of it? Like, no, like you're talking to the wrong people. So a lot of people can be pro-immigration because a lot of these people are immigrants or used to be immigrants. Whatever, how that works. But that's why they got a high tolerance of it. Like their history started from that. Their genesis started from immigration. Ours didn't. Immigration always hurted us. It always hurt us, like I just expressed. So white tea people from the north, west, and then eventually east and south has been included over us, been protected, and been allowed. That's why the word allowed. They've been allowed to be successful. So when we hear people gaslighting us, we clearly see white tea people being allowed to be successful, and we see that a lot of these African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants are also, to a degree, being allowed to be successful. Because trust me, as I just read off to you, if they didn't want you to be successful, you'll be tied up with us. You will be excluded. The fact that you have something going on means that you were able to escape through the loops. You're not the targeted audience. You might look like us, but you're not the targeted audience. Once they find out oh, they're like, all right, no threat there. So you will hear like a lot of the conservatives will try to act like a lot of our issues come from, and you'll hear the tether class repeat this. Oh, it's the culture. Okay, you guys got to avoid crime and all that type stuff. We get it. So anyway, just a recap. So to get us to where we are now, where we own and control a little of the wealth of the country, it ain't because we ain't the hard workers of the world. It's because of racial zoning, people telling us, the country telling us, you can't live here. We don't care how successful you are, you got to stay in your neighborhoods. So the rich stays with the middle class stay with the poor, all together, forced to stay together. Then you have restrictive covenants. Even if you try to move out. Somebody's going to stop you with the restrictive covenant. Then you got the HOLC redlining. Our neighborhoods were made officially worthless. There's no value. You sell a house, you're not getting no money. And then the FHA loans, right? They'll help white buy homes, but not Black Americans. So that was a system. That's called systemic racism. When you purposely uplift one group while purposely holding the other group down. And now they want to try this whole lift all programs. Like, wait. Nah, it's not how that's gonna work. And this is some of the genesis of how reparations started to come, because they start to act like they can't do anything in reverse for Black Americans. Oh no, we can't just give you something and not the whitey man. Now we know we did that for hundreds of years to start the country off, to create this wealth gap, this massive wealth gap. But no, we can't do it in reverse, because remember, you said it's bad. So if it's done in reverse, it's still bad. So you can't correct bad with bad. You got to correct good. You got to correct bad with good. So anything we do for you, the country got to benefit. But like, well, then you're keeping the wealth gap the way it is then. I know, but that'd be racist, right? Isn't Black a race? So we can't do anything for Black people because now we grouped you guys as a race. And that's racist. Don't you hate racism? So that forced our hand to be like, okay, so you can't ever, you won't and can't ever try to right the wrong. I got you. All right, well, I guess that's then damn, reparations it is. That was some of the genesis of the reparations talk. It had nothing to do with an immigrant. It had nothing to do with anybody origins to go to Africa or Jamaica or Haiti. That was literally the conversation. Had nothing to do with y'all. Y'all stepped in the way. How did a conversation, an argument that had nothing to do with you involve you? Because you stepped in the way. You try to protect Zaddy. And the minute we said, all right, well, look, if this is going to be like that, then reparations is going to be for the harmed class. That's us. That's nobody else. It's not the white T man, because this ain't race based. It's not the Hispanic man. It's not the Asian man. It's not anybody from Africa or the Caribbean. This is a debt owed and due to people of the soul lineage, SOUL lineage. We're the soul people. Listen, the reason why this is big, right? I mentioned the HOLC, the Home Owners Loaner Corporation, and the home, the low cost mortgages with the GI Bill, because most American wealth comes from home ownership. You heard me? So it was important for the whitey man to make as many whitey people homeowners and try to, well, not try, but exclude many foundational Black Americans from owning homes, because they understood this is what makes the middle class. This is how the country thrives. This is where wealth comes from. When you talk about generational wealth, we're talking about home ownership, starting way back in the early 1900s, because before then it was about land. Right. So it's important to block us from home ownership, or devalue our homes by 23%, or simply just take your home. Eminent domain. We're gonna run a highway through this. So as a result of that imbalance, as a result of that systemic racism, you have property value gaps between Black Americans and whites. You have school funding gaps. Like, this is what all this created, which is almost impossible to fix today. You have neighborhood poverty, and you have the massive wealth gap. So all of that, 1862 Homestead Act giving 270 million acres of land to white man, excluding Black Americans from HOLC, FHA, running highways through our cities, creating overcrowdedness, burning down our business districts. Okay. And then that's where we are today. So where we are today isn't a result of bad choices, as they want to gaslight us to believe. It was about bad laws and bad policies, systemic racism. Okay, so America didn't just discriminate socially, it designed housing policy to block Black Americans out of wealth. Then, when we got poor, that was inevitable. They blamed us for being poor. Look, they poor. And this is what the tethers do. They come into our space and say, hey, look, you're poor, right? Because they're looking at our condition that was caused by the white team man, and they're benefiting from um, a position in this country as immigrants. So when we remind them, like, oh, the white team man, yeah, the whitey man did hold us back where a lot of us ain't doing well, but how is your country different? Oh no, I don't want to talk about my country. I want to talk about me, the individual. Yeah, but you're talking about my country. You're talking about 43, 50 million people, but I'm supposed to just talk about you? No, sir. No, sir. We're going to compare and contrast. We were done bad. You guys just got it bad, like Usher. So our condition, we would take, all we're saying is we would take our condition light years above yours in your homeland. A handful of you guys are over here collecting crumbs. You ain't doing nothing crazy. Collecting crumbs, and you had the nerve to try to rub that in the face of 50 million Black Americans as though you're doing better than most. Stop. Your homeland's in shambles, and nobody's trying to get on you until you came over here and try to compare your individual success with 50 something million Black Americans from the soul lineage. So we like, nah. Okay. So I spoke about the racial zoning laws in the early 1900s, right? So this is what happened. So this is for the tethered class and those immigrants who are not tethers, but just genuinely don't know and don't mind learning. This is for the family who want to try to remember this. Write this down. Take a picture, screenshot. Okay, so racial zoning laws of the early 1900s that I spoke of, around like 1917. Cities, this what happened. Cities made laws telling the whitey man where Black Americans are not allowed to live based on our lineage. All right. So as a result, we, foundational Black Americans, were legally blocked from getting out of the slums, the ghetto. We couldn't, like, so they forced us there. No matter how much money you had, you were locked in the ghetto. So just imagine Michael Jordan living down the street from you. So if these laws were to come into effect today, some of us would be living next to Kevin Hart. Okay. Um, those laws also protected whitey people property value, not safety. Okay. It protected their property value. So their property value wouldn't drop, because if you had a Black neighbor, your property value would drop. It's called the black tax. Like they made us the black duckling. If you live next to us, your property value went down. So this was to incentivize the whitey man to carry on those restrictive covenants. Okay. Um, so when that was struck down, when the racial zoning laws were struck down as unconstitutional, you think that stopped racism? You think that stopped anti-lineagism? No. It just changed the tactics, right? They stopped saying it out loud, but they kept doing it quietly. And that was through the restrictive covenants that took place of the racial zoning law. So every time that something was struck down, all they did was rename it, reshape it. So when we talk about plantation slavery, when that ended, they just renamed it, reshaped it. convict leasing, sharecropping, and all that type of stuff. Just replace it. Same thing. Like, it just not, it can't be done this way anymore. It got to be done this way. This looks better for the country's image. So restrictive covenants, right? When this took place of the racial zoning laws, look how this worked. Home contracts, listen, white people home contracts literally said no black people allowed. And check it out. If you were sold a house from a good white guy who said, nah, we're gonna nah, these black Americans, nah, man, we ain't gonna do that. These are the chosen people. You dig? I wanna have a clean slate. I wanna have a blessed lineage myself. I'm gonna sell this black American house. Even if that happened, family, these restrictive covenants were so racist that a white tea neighbor could sue to stop black families from moving in. So a neighbor could see, oh, Bob sold Tyrone that house. Yeah, all right. They'll go to court and sue. Like, nope, nope. And that process will be reversed. So those rules follow houses for decades, right? So again, just because a law is struck down or a sign is taken down doesn't mean systemic racism just disappears. Doesn't mean white people just have a heart all of a sudden. So um Afro, you have a lot of Afro Republican conservatives who will try to go with that narrative. Oh, well, since we don't see the signs, since it's on paper to say it doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. Like they play that stupid route right there. You had that tethered Jamaican dream. Try to argue that over here. And you had an FBA dude come over here try to debate me, got cooked, taking that taking that approach. But check this out. Like I said, even after courts banned enforcement, right? Well, for all those years, the damage already done. Like this created a mindset. So sometimes they don't mind striking down the law when the mindset when the culture is already there. When you create a culture of racism, you can take down every law, you can take down every sign you need to. You can change the laws all you want. You know that these people are going to violate those laws and practice it because it's their culture now. So those houses for sale, you couldn't even buy those homes, even if that guy wanted to be a good white tea man and sell it to you. Couldn't buy it. Your next door neighbor could sue you out of that home. Okay. Um, that's 1920s around there. That took over the racial zoning laws. And when I spoke about the HOLC redlining of 1933, so now this is 10 years later. So when we're not allowed to leave our neighborhoods because we're marginalized by racial zoning laws and restrictive covenants, you know what that calls? That calls overcrowding. Now you got the rich, the wealthy, and the poor all living in the same community and nobody really can leave. So of course, when you're overcrowded, there's gonna be more garbage, more litter. The housing is gonna be the homes is gonna be worked harder. Stairs gonna be used often. Like we all know this. If you're a Black American, you know you lived in a big house with family, or you've seen your cousins do that, right? Where cousins live with cousins and aunts. You know when people run up the stairs or walk up the stairs 20 times a day, 40 times a day, because that many people living there, you're gonna wear down the stairs, the banister more often. The rugs can get dirtier, as opposed to 3, 4 people living there. So if you have a home with 10 people living there, yeah, the house is going to be wore down a lot faster. The community is going to be wore down a lot faster. It'll be more trash, especially who's taking the trash out, you know. So the HOLC 1933 redlining. Immigrants, write this down. Afro immigrants, write this down. The ones who are not tethers, write this down. So you can argue with your own, right? Get them straight. So the HOLC, the home Owner Loaners Corporation of 1933. This is where redlining started. The government literally drew maps grading neighborhoods. Black neighborhoods were automatically labeled bad, right? So that bad neighborhood of Black Americans got the red line, right? And the red line, if you live there, you got no home loans, so the HOLC didn't apply to you. You got no repairs, so your houses just was worn down, your cities was worn down, and you got no investments. Okay, and that's where redlining comes from. That's 1933. This is 4 years after the Great Depression, where everybody's supposed to be supposedly doing bad, right? The economy just crashed. Okay, so isn't everybody starting from zero if it just crashed? So the white team man ain't want us having a head start. It did over the white team man doing better, because then that destroys the whole white is better attitude. So that's why they had to hold us, say, all right, on your mark, get set, go, and hold us back for 2 days and then say, go. Hold us back. It's a 5-lap race. Hold us back for 4 laps and say, go. The white team man just got 1 more lap to go. That's what happened right here. So obviously, using that method, the government, this is the government. This ain't just a regular white team man or a sheriff. This is the American government. That's why we're suing the government for reparations. So the government officially stamped our neighborhoods, Black American neighborhoods, as worthless by doing that. You own a home, no equity, none of that useless stuff. Okay. So that's HOLC. Now let's go to the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration. So you had that's 1934. So the FHA created cheap home loans for the white team man. Again, this is still around the time of the Great Depression. It just happened. And they're helping. They're giving a kickstand. They're giving training wheels. They're giving crutches to the white team man on another level. So they can never talk about assistance. Like, yo, your whole existence in America was assistance. So they gave these cheap, poor people who couldn't get it from the mud, lazy people, they gave them cheap home loans. And look, that right there, the 1934 is what made the suburbs. What you see today comes almost 100 years ago. So don't never let somebody tell you, let them gaslight you. All that what happened before doesn't play into today. It doesn't shape today. The 1934 FHA literally built what you know today as the white tea suburbs. Okay. And obviously, it required neighborhoods to be racially exclusive. So, in order to get this, listen, family, look at the play. In order to get this dangling fruit, this dangling snack, you gotta not associate with Black Americans. You gotta treat them badly. Now, y'all see in the play, this is why everybody who comes into the country becomes teen white supremacy. So, when you hear Africans' testimonies, when you hear the Caribbean testimonies, hey, I was told by my mom, my uncle, my dad to stay away from Black Americans. This is why. This started 1933. The Irish, the Italians, the small hats, and just poor whites in general. Hey, if you want to take advantage of these welfare opportunities, don't hang with the Black Americans and treat them badly. Enforce Jim Crow, and all of this will be yours. And that's why it's everybody against FBA. They're incentivized. This is irrefutable. So obviously, at that time, the FHA and those restrictive rules, those racist rules, those anti-lineage rules, had built white equity. And what did it do for us? It locked us out. Right. So by doing that, again, they created overcrowding for Black Americans. It went they try to pretend like we love the ghetto. No, you won't let us out for hundred years and so on. So we were blocked from most neighborhoods. Everyone had to live in the same few areas. So guess what's going to happen? We're having babies, so population is going to grow, but the housing didn't. The areas we can move to didn't grow. So multiple families were forced into one house, one apartment, one building. Okay. Higher rent, worse living conditions, faster building decay, like I said, this with the stair point, and more stress and conflict is causing contention. Health problems, obviously, and easier for politicians to call the area blighted. Now, who was that? Somebody had just did a video. I can't remember. Somebody did a video on blighted. I think I saved it. Mm. And somebody in the chat, no, let me know. But somebody made a video on blighted. So blighted is something that is severely damaged, decayed, spoiled, or hindered in growth. Okay. So a blighted area, a blighted property. Okay, I think that's the video. They was doing blighted properties to justify gentrification. I got it. That's what they did the video on. Okay, so a blighted area or blighted property refers to places in a state of decay, neglect, or dilapidation, often containing vacant, unsafe buildings that act as eyesores. Okay. All right. So somebody did a video on that. I gotta find who that was because I might need to play that video. I might gotta play that video. Who was that? I'm looking at the chat. Who was that made a video on Blighted? He was locked up like Akon. Who was um damn man, why can't I get I'm gonna check right now. Because somebody made a video recently and I was gonna look at it, but I saved it. I said, I'm gonna say this for later. So as you can see, family, we were um forced to live in small areas amongst us. Our population grew, but our space didn't. So we were crowded. So if anybody ever tried to compare us to immigrants and ask, why don't we live like them in one house? Well, now you see why. It was forced on us. So if, obviously we don't want to go back to a condition that was forced on us. That can't be good, right? Living in one house, right? If white tea supremacy forced us to be overcrowded in one house, then that means that that's not the way you go, especially when they're not doing that. They're forcing us to be overcrowded. They know that this is how this what comes about. They can build in decay, trash, a whole, you're at the white tea man um disposal at that point. So we were forced to be overcrowded. So why would we want to go back to be overcrowding today? Like, yeah, we always gonna shack up with our uncles and aunts and we're gonna save money like these immigrants. No, man. Like we were forced to be overcrowded. So that right there is like triggering. It's traumatizing. There's a plan behind that. Let me see if I can find that video somebody did. I can't find it. All right. I forgot who did it. But somebody did a video on America. is calling our cities blighted. And that's a justification to gentrify it after they sabotage it because they don't provide loans. It's a long, long rabbit hole that people gaslight us. Okay, it's a long rabbit hole. Oh, you don't get the loans because your credit is bad. Yeah, but why is our credit bad? You dig? So, but you have tethers who argue that white supremacist talking points. And what's be interesting is that a lot of these tethers be claiming they're Pan-African. Like, dude, stop. All right, 1 second. Let me click on a couple links. No, I can't do that one. That's too long. See if I get another quick video. Okay, I'll do that right there. Let's see if my TikTokers can hear it. So one more time, one more again. Um, one more again. Overcrowding. Overcrowding was designed by the government, the white team man as a whole, as a collective, the ones that's in power, and that's who matters. They run the white team man land. So they overcrowded us, causing higher rent, worse living conditions, faster building decay, more stress and conflict, health problems, and then it became easier for politicians to call the area blighted. They caused the overcrowding and then blamed us for it. Like literally, you talk about a gaslight? Yo, look at your neighborhoods, man. They're dilapidated. They're falling apart. Wait a minute. You just made zoning laws where you can't leave, and you got private restrictive covenants amongst yourselves so you won't sell us homes. So we're stuck in these areas. We can't expand, we can't leave. So the inevitable happened, building decay, trash, litter, whatever. And then you say, hey, look at these poor people, they're messy. This area is blighted. Yeah, family, the gaslight is real. Okay, so let's go into that. I'm gonna try to put the speaker near the TikToker so they can hear it.
We don't picture something like this parking garage, but New York considers it blighted. That's because blight is a word with more than just a negative connotation. It has the power to unlock billions of dollars for real estate development by opening the door for governments to seize private property for public use.
There you go. There you go. To justify gentrification. Well, eminent domain, really, really. Justification, yes, but eminent domain more so, right? Because gentrification deals with private people that's buying you out. Uh, the government stepping in, that's eminent domain. So they call your city, they cause the issue by denying loans, redlining, housing discrimination, job discrimination, can't get a job, can't work. And then they make you to blame, they cause it, blame you, and then use that area for some government project. Okay. Now, overcrowding gets misrepresented, as you can see. So they would say, hey, man, they can't leave their neighborhood. This is when we literally couldn't leave. Right? We're talking about Jim Crow. So they'll say, hey, they can't leave their neighborhood because of zoning laws and restrictive covenants. So then they'll say, hey, man, these neighborhoods are dirty. Look, they're destroying their property. Why don't y'all maintain your homes? Now we're getting no loans. The HOLC was not for us. The FHA was not for us. And we didn't get no, two people out of 600,000 got something, 270,000, whatever the number was, ridiculous number, got benefited from the GI Bill. All right. So they'll say, look, man, they're not maintaining their homes. Look at the communities. It's terrible. Right. So this is what happens though. When you keep people amongst themselves and cause overcrowding, where you make laws where they can't leave, too many people plus no HOLC investments, right? It's gonna be inevitable. It's gonna decay. Okay. So you can't maintain buildings when banks refuse loans. That's the bottom line. So overcrowding wasn't cultural, it was forced, but they pretend like we want to be in the ghetto today. So they literally squeezed us into boxes and then mocked us for bumping into each other in the box. This is the gaslight that white T man has always done. This is 1933, 1944, there's 1956. There's no significant number of immigrants, no Latino or no African immigrants at this time. So it's the white T man talking point. So when you guys come in our spaces in 2026 and you borrow these anti-Black American talking points, you're gonna get what you want. You're gonna get it. You're borrowing the talking points of the white T man, and then when we respond to you like we do the white T man, you gaslight us and say, "Hey man, you're out of control. You're going too far." Right? So we were overcrowded because America locked the doors in different societies. So then you had the free. So anyway, so going back to the Homestead Act. So now here's what led to 40 acres and a mule. A lot of people don't know. So Black Americans, we cleared the land. That's literally building the foundation. So when people say we're not foundational, people like me, scholars like me just laugh. Like, okay, yeah, I know you don't know nothing about America, the foundation of America. I know you don't. And we invite you to call in, hop on the TikTok panel, the YouTube panel, whatever. But that's laughable. So we cleared the land. That is foundational work, and we're the economy of the country. Tobacco, rice, cotton, sugar. Was literally the economy. Our labor by itself went from third world country to a first power, and then the infrastructure we laid down, clearing the land, railroad tracks, draining the swamps, all that type of stuff, steel mills, coal mines, that was just foundational. So that's not even an argument, really. Like, not too many white Americans would actually argue that. Uh, so when somebody outside the country come argue that, like, we know they're just not in their right mind. So anyway, after the 1862 Homestead Act, where they gave out 270 million acres of land that we cleared and we got nothing, we were negotiating, Frederick Douglass and other Black Americans were negotiating with Abraham Lincoln and his administration about 40 acres and a mule. So you guys know what happened with that. Okay. So anyway, after that, Abraham Lincoln and his administration had came up with the Freedmen Bureau. That was 1865 to 1872. All right. The government created that after the Civil War to help formerly enslaved Black Americans transition to freedom. Because it was a government agency, they kept detailed records. This is why a lot of us can trace our lineage going back to the Freedmen Bureau. You see? Because it was a government agency, they kept detailed records of people who had no other legal paperwork This is where you find the names of ancestors you might have who were never listed in a census before 1870. So there's many ways, many ways to track your genealogy, right? So here you can go to you got to know where your ancestor lived immediately after the Civil War. If you know that, the Bureau operated in the former Confederate states, DC, and border states like Kentucky and Maryland. So you just hit the search and look for the field office closest to your ancestors' county. You got marriage records you can look through. You have labor contracts you can look through. And then you have the Freedmen Bank records. So you got the Freedmen Bureau glossary. You might want to look into that. You have things like contraband. That's how we were labeled. Cohabitation, indenture, apprenticeship. You got abandoned lands and rations. Some things you want to look for when you're trying to track your genealogy. Early, because people ask, like, well, how do I go beyond 1880, 1890, 1870? So those are some tips. If you have trouble tracking your lineage. Okay, so Sister Lena, she brought up Soul City one time. She's like, "Hey, have you heard of Soul City?" I said, "Yes, I have. I got a whole video on that." All right, so for those who thought systemic racism ended in 1968, the FHA, can y'all talk to me about Soul City? Right, so Soul City was a project that was funded by the Richard Nixon administration, right, in the late 1960s. He signed the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1970. It's called the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1970. This act created a program to help build new towns and cities across America. A key part of this was Section 707, which was specifically designed to fund the development of new towns by Black American entrepreneurs. The federal government, through Nixon's Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, as we know it as today, provided loans to get these cities off the ground. It was more than one. It was a moment of incredible opportunity for people. And Black leaders, Black Americans were ready. Right. So Soul City was in North Carolina. It was it was in the hands of a Floyd McKissick. McKissick was a giant in the civil rights movement. He was a lawyer and a veteran who eventually took over as the National Director of Congress of Racial Equality, you know it as CORE, from James Farmer. After years of marching and protesting, McKissick came to believe that true freedom for Black Americans wouldn't just come from demanding rights from white people, it would come from building our economic power. So when they say, what did we build? What'd you guys build? What'd you guys build? I, again, laugh at them. Like, all right, just click the link. Click that link. So what he wanted to do with the project, he said he had a vision for a brand new city, a Black-owned, Black-run city like the other cities that's being funded as white ran. This was going to be on 5,000 acres of rural land in Warren County, North Carolina. All right. So no, this was not going to be another housing project. It was going to be a complete self-sufficient city with industry. That was the whole plan of these cities. The whole plan of cities were to attract all of them were to create jobs, attract factories, businesses, um, things like that. And especially for us, because we were locked out of the white dominated society. And the economy. I just read to you, right? So it obviously planned for modern schools and technical college to train everybody, all the residents in that city. It was going to have its own hospital and medical facilities, right? It was going to be a town with parks and spaces to celebrate Black art, Black American art, and community, right? So this was going to be dope had they left it alone. This is 1977, I think. It's late. So this is way post Jim Crow, legal segregation. We're now integrated. We're like 10 years into integration now, where you guys say systemic racism ended, right? So Soul City, that was the name. It was the nickname. It was a declaration. It was a city built on Black American culture, Black American pride, and guess what? Black American soul. We're the soul people with the soul lineage. We're soul lineagers. Uh, so obviously we wanted a chance to prove that we can govern ourselves. We can build our own economy again and create again another thriving community without needing to ask for loans or anything like that. We got it, basically. So what happened? So like I said, this was a project of 13 other new towns that was being built for the same reason, to attract jobs. Again, people ain't working, to get cities up and thriving. So you had San Antonio Ranch, Texas, a community near San Antonio designed to be a multi-ethnic integrated new town. You had the new community, New Jersey, an ambitious urban renewal project in Newark aimed at rebuilding a devastated inner city neighborhood. Okay, I don't know why they parked. You had St. Charles, Maryland, one of the largest and most successful of the new towns, right? But it wasn't really specifically Black led. Okay. What the hell are you? Oh, they got the Ghanaian flag. They got yeah, but look, they got the Ghanaian flag in the car. Cop pulling off. But nah, they don't know who's who. Got a big old Ghanaian flag in your car, but they don't know you're African. Like, knock it off. Okay. So anyway, the key difference was that Soul City was the only one explicitly conceived, led, and championed by Black leadership for the primary purpose of uplifting Black Americans. Right. Well, today it's a metropolis. But how did that happen? So for one, you had political opposition. Southern white politicians like Senator Jesse Helms, we're name dropping, were terrified of Soul City. Why was he terrified of Soul City, family? Why is Black people game a white man's nightmare, a white T man nightmare? Why is Messy Jesse so fearful of Black Americans working and thriving? Tethers, not all immigrants, but the tether class. Can you explain why this white T man Jesse, Messy Jesse, was so fearful of Black Americans working and being prosperous and being productive? Huh? Can you explain that? Why they not so afraid of immigrants coming over here working, buying homes, being successful? Why are you guys never causing fear in the white T man? Why is Messy Jesse terrified of a Soul City? And as you can see, they were terrified of the Black Wall Street era. This is 1978, 77, 79. Terrified of a Black American city thriving. I'll tell you. Well, I ain't gotta tell you, it's obvious. They know our capabilities. They know we can make lemonade out of sour lemons, old lemons. They know that that's our history. Okay. Um, they felt like they felt like a city like that, thriving like that. Don't forget, this is like these folks were white tea supremacist flag wavers of this country. Like they were bragging to other European countries, hey, no, we got the real white tea supremacist country. Right? So they can't do that with a black Wall Street thriving and making noise. The other European countries gonna laugh at them like, hey, I thought y'all was the ultimate, you know what I mean, white tea man country. What's up with that? So they got rid of it. Now Soul City, again, another black thriving city, is gonna contradict that this country is a white tea man ran pure white tea, HEAT, you know, black greatness. All right. So obviously they fought at it every turn using their power in Congress, family. They went to Congress. The white tea man went to Congress to block federal funding and then they start to spread you already know this coming. They start to spread propaganda that it was that it was a waste of taxpayer money. Okay? Ain't this rhetoric? Now this is 1978, family. This is supposed to be post segregation. This is supposed to be, oh, white systemic racism is gone and doesn't exist anymore. Everybody, there's no excuse for failing at this point. This is what Myron Gaines will tell you. This was some other Afro immigrants will tell you. Hey man, ain't no excuse to fail today. The white tea man ain't holding you down. They'll gaslight us and tell us that. Southern white tea politicians like Senator Jesse Helms went to Congress and said, yo, you got to stop funding that city. We can't afford another Black Wall Street. So like this is like my secret weapon when I'm talking to tethers and white tea supremacists. When they talk about, oh, nah, you don't want to work, you don't want to do anything. I say, all right, well, explain Soul City. Ew. Yeah, I can't believe I just seen that. Yeah, this big obese tether was sagging. He put up his shirt and he literally had a brown stripe across his butt. That's some movie stuff. Pause. Okay, anyway, let's get back. So now the media. Listen, the media often led by, who do you think? Republican conservative voices. It painted Soul City as a corrupt, mismanaged boondoggle. So they focus on any setback and ignore the progress, turning public opinion against it. See how easy it is for them to turn public opinion against us thriving? Now, where was the other media? So now you got media saying, these idiots. Yeah, you got media saying, hey, defund this. It's terrible. It's all of the rhetoric they use today. It's a HATE project. Oh, they just want to do this nationalism thing. Family, where was the Democratic liberal media? Why are you doing this? Just so stupid. Okay, so where was the liberal media to meet them head on like they do for these illegals? To say, nah, you guys lying. This is a great project, man. Any media that was supposed to be liberal, DNC, was silent, and they let these fools do a whole national campaign on how Soul City is terrible. It's a bad idea. It'd be nothing but gangsters running the city, and they let them go crazy with that. Where when they decided to like end it, there was no massive uproar. Where was the DNC? Where was the liberals at this time? Like they do for illegals. Why were they not champion behind us. Like, hey man, that's a good idea. It didn't even get started yet. Yeah, tripping. Nope, nope. It didn't happen. So obviously, without the promised federal support and under, continual political attack, Soul City didn't get the momentum it needed. So by 1979, the federal government pulled its funding. So the media, liberal media, allowed conservative media to go crazy on this, so much so that it was justified to pull funding back from it. So some people said, was it Lena? Somebody said they went there recently. So the land is still there. Is now unincorporated community with some homes and a few industrial parks and a research facility, but it's not the independent, self-sufficient city that McKissick or any of us envisioned, right? So it got destroyed before it ever got up. So that's how they do us, Black Americans. But let it be these immigrants. So let's talk about the immigrants. So there's a two-tiered immigration system. So America operates what amounts to a bifurcated immigration system that explicitly prioritizes human capital. So this is for the TikTokers, because the YouTubers know this already. It's for the TikTokers. So there are two types of immigrants that come into this country legally. You got the economic immigrants and you got the humanitarian immigrants. So when you guys come to this country, you immigrate to this country, you want to know, did your relatives come here as economic immigrants or humanitarian immigrants? Because it matters. Oh, it matters. All right, so let me go ahead and try to explain. 1 second. Yeah, so we're gonna bring some education today. So what is an economic immigrant? So folks who follow me for the longest, for like over a year, you would know I talk about hyperselectivity. Right? You guys know I talk about hyperselectivity. Okay, so the US has historically operated as a brain gate. Burping and stuff. The US has historically operated as a brain game. I'll talk about brain gain, brain drain, brain waste, brain circulation, brain drain all the time on my channel, right? So its model is to actively recruit high skilled immigrants from other countries through mechanisms like the H-1B visas. Okay. So they are going to get immigrants from their countries who are already highly skilled in their country or highly educated, right? So that means they got the education from their colleges that they probably pay little to no money. Okay. It ain't a arm and a leg like we got to pay in our country. Those individuals are highly selected specifically for their potential economic contributions, right? With research showing they boost innovation and economic growth. These people make up the 1% of their country. These are the brightest minds of their country. So when they get over here, they try to act like they're so much better than the average American. It's like, my guy, my gal, you are the 1% of your entire fled country, my guy. Of course, you're a little brighter than the average American. You're comparing your top 1% to the average American that can be the low, the most ignorant, mid-educated, or highly educated. But we're all bunched together. You're sending your best over here. And you're trying to compare that to the collective, to the American collective. No. You compare collectives with collectives, and you compare your best with our best. You can't do that. You guys are so shameful that you guys compare your best to our possibly worst. Okay? Now, recent policies have intensified this selectivity, including imposing $100,000 fees on new H-1B petitions, right? Effectively creating a barrier that only the wealthiest companies and most highly compensated workers can overcome. So this is hyper selectivity. This is really what I said. It's the most wealthy people and the most educated are coming over here. Um, their tier represents what is I just said. Their tier is their best and brightest. So don't let any of these people gaslight you trying to compare those who are in America today, who represent their top 1% to the average Black American. They calling our shows, but hey man, what education you got? I'm like, why? Oh, okay. So you must be one of those hyper selected people. I got you. You're the 1% of your country is like nowhere near our 1%. Like their 1% in their country, their best, brightest, most wealthiest at best, probably our middle class at best. All right. So then you have the humanitarian immigrants. Now, these are the folks that are allegedly responsible for all the degeneracy that happens in America. Okay. So these ain't the top 1%. These ain't the brightest. So the top 1% are most likely not going to get into criminal activity or scamming. Okay. It's going to be the bottom 1%, or no, just the rest. It's the top 1% and then the 99% who are all equal. Okay. So they come over here as refugees, asylees, and evacuees, right? These are the humanitarian immigrants. So America wants to look good by saying I saved the child. Now, they get mad at us. They get mad at us for they'll say, "Hey man, those commercials feed the kids and feed the kids. Yeah, that's called humanitarianism, right? Feed the kids, oh you're doing God's work or you're a humanitarian person. There you go." Well, damn, if you came over here as refugees, asylees, and evacuees, you the same people. You are the same people. Those guys are different. So the hyper selected immigrants, they come over here and they are plug and play, right? They get right to work or get right to school. Not the refugees, asylees, and evacuees. These are the guys and gals who need assistance. These are the guys and gals who needs to check the box that says Black to jump into our resource pool and scavenge that's limited resources. It's already limited, and they come in there and scavenge it. All right. Those people, they typically arrive with minimal resources and require significant initial support, making them precisely the burden the system generally seeks to avoid in its economic immigration stream. So if they are a burden and the hyper selected people are a plus, then why go after the burden? Because this is a way to say, see, we are a good country. Look, we're going to save these people who just got hit with this earthquake or this typhoon. Okay, see, we're taking them in. We don't want nothing, no money. We're just going to take them in. We're going to house them, employ them, and we are a good people. We're a good country. We are humane in that sense. Oh, these people are running from political war. They called out their government. They stood on 10. Oh, they're being chased out. They're being attacked because of their political ways. Okay, fine. We'll bring them over here. These are refugees. And then everybody else who's in question are asylees. Asylees are people who are not really considered refugees. Their status is pending because they could be scamming. But refugees, once you're considered refugees, you're already vetted, and most likely you are a refugee. But asylee, these people often get turned around. They investigate and they say, no, you're not a refugee. You are a scammer. And they, you know, suspend their ability to be in America. And then that's when ICE deports them. But then they hide. They run and hide. So it's like a whole finesse. Then they join a cartel or something else. The shower posse or somebody. All right. So that's that. That is that.
Your block. These properties are more than just a mess. It's also bringing down the value of every home around it.
So 9 on Your Side is asking what is being done to hold the property owners accountable. 9 on Your Side's Tom McKee has been digging for answers. What'd you find, Tom?
Well, Tanya, this is a listing of 11,500 orders to Cincinnati property owners to fix code violations. Now, most people take care of them as best they can, but there are chronic offenders who ignore them. They are the target of new efforts to crack down on this particular problem. Now, if you drive the streets...
So they're saying they're blighted. All right. Okay. So when you bring it to immigration, right? So this is, again, and this is why it's kind of like it's a tough task to get Black Americans behind immigration without them just completely selling out to a party, because it's not naturally something that's on our mind. Immigration has always been competition for Black Americans. Immigration has always been used to undermine Black America. When you're talking about Emancipation Proclamation, the Voting Rights Act of 1868, what did they do? The minute we became freed and the Freedmen Bureau was set up and the Freedmen Banks, the Freedmen Colleges, all that stuff was set up, 1865 to 1872. What happened shortly afterwards? Oh, we got to bring in the Chinese over here. We got to bring in these other Europeans over here. Mass influx. Matter of fact, somebody called it something. Meant to Google it. Immigration of the 1880. Oh, Crystal Palace, that's what he called it. So the dude had an actual name for that era that I wasn't familiar with. Crystal Palace. Okay. So Crystal Palace. Anyway, as I was saying, once we became emancipated and the Freedmen Bureau was set up, shortly after that, obviously we're going to look for jobs. So now, Crystal Palace was, okay, so the guy was, I guess, wrong on what he called is. So no, so that he got that wrong. That's why I like to, Tariq Nasheed did a show and he's like, hey, will y'all stop telling me stuff that's wrong? So gotta get this stuff right. It was called, I think it's called it's called Castle Garden. Wait a minute. He could be right. Let me just get this right. So I'm gonna look up both. Let's check it out. I think what he was talking to, yeah, that can't be right. What he's talking about is the UK. So Crystal Palace refers to the UK. So let me see if it's called Castle Garden. Let me see if that's what it's called. Okay. All right. So Castle Garden, located in Battery Park, Manhattan, was America's first official immigration depot, processing over 8 million immigrants, roughly 75% of the U.S. total between August 3rd, 1855 and April 1890. Yeah, so that's it right there. So this is what happened to undermine our freedom, right? To sabotage it. We trying to, get right, get into the work field and do for self. It served as a state-run facility to protect the new arrivals before the federal government opened Ellis Island in 1892. All right. Here we go. 1855, 1890. We were emancipated in 1865. So 10 years. Yep. Yep. So sometimes family, like they know what's going to happen. So they start preparing for it in advance. Like they already knew they're going to do a civil war. They're going to win. We'll be free. And you know what? Let's get this in motion ASAP. ASAP Ferg. So it says about 20% of Americans can trace their ancestry to someone who passed through Castle Garden. But anyway, my point was the immigrants who came through Castle Garden, Ellis Island, like these were not our friends. They didn't come to do anything with us. They didn't come to end systemic racism. They came to keep it going if need be. But they came here as our competitors for sure. So again, so immigration, when they talk about that much Black Americans, that was always seen as a negative thing. It was never seen as a positive, like we could all get together and fight systemic racism. No, because the few times where we linked up with the white man and that happened, the white man always came back and had incentives for those white people to never do it again, to link up, to stay with on code of white supremacy. So like they somehow made them police officers. They always came back with a way to reward them to stay away from us. So the average immigrant that comes to this country, like there's no reward in building with us in their mind. All their minds, like the reward is to stay away from us. That's when they get housing, they get funds, they can be included onto the Minnesota scams. You feel me? So stay away from the Black man, the people from the soul lineage, and you will be rewarded one way or another. But to be around them, no, no, no. So what I said was this. I say if we get somebody immigrating to this country, probably can't link up with us right away because their immigration status could be revoked and they could be sent back. So, but what they could do is train their children up who has now anchored into this country, got birthright citizenship. They should train them up to be sympathetic and, you know, not just sympathetic, but educated and part of some of our causes. None of them ever do that. You take. So it's like, yeah, there is no coalition, and there's no Black and brown coalition because there's no brown race. Okay, Hispanics are either Black or white. So, but the brown, when they say brown coalition, do you know the brown includes the Black Latinos and the white ones? So it's like so confused. It's like, wait a minute. If it's about Black versus white, but you snuck in the brown coalition that includes the white, like that's some slick stuff. Let me ask ChatGPT what they feel about that. Hold on. Oh, all right. Let me see what chat to be. What's that black and brown coalition thing? That's a whole finesse. And that got to be exploited. Oh, looking for chat GPT. Let me see their thoughts on that. I got to frame it a certain way, and we're going to get some feedback. Because chat GPT, man, yeah, they be trying to protect, man, a little too much. Like, yeah, I'll be debating with chat GPT, like, all right, bro, stop trying to be easy on these folks. Chat GPT be explaining. I'm like, yo, don't give me the explanation, man. Give me the explanation. Don't give me the explanation. Let me justify it. Don't be justifying, you know. Seriously? Black and brown coalition, as though they're not white. Like, that's a slick way yeah, that was a slick way. They snuck in the white. It's a whole finesse. Everything is to undermine, sabotage Black Americans. I talk about the eminent domains. I talk about the overcrowding. These are all sabotages. I talk about the HOLCs. Everything's about sabotaging us and undermining us. And anything. So it's like, yo, are people, or what have they seen already that they're like, nah, can't mess around. Can't can't get them anything. All right, so let me do this. I want to do a new chat. How I do a new chat? Black Americans are told about the black and we never bring together black and brown people together in any way in America. Are the brown people anyway? Last time I checked, Latinos, Hispanics are either white or black. So to me, it appears they are trying to sneak whites into a black coalition because amongst those brown people aren't there white Latinos? So it's not really black and brown, but black Americans are black, and black Latinos in a coalition with white Latinos. It seems like a slick way to include white people or white minded people into the coalition. Explain. All right, so we're gonna have ChatGPT explain this this garbage. Now they always be explaining. ChatGPT always be explaining. All right, hold on. 1 second, family. I'm gonna have ChatGPT explain this away. It's black and brown coalition, but they really ain't brown. They're white. Okay. So it says the phrase black and brown coalition is a political and social shorthand, but it often gets used in ways that are vague, inconsistent, and sometimes strategically ambiguous. I'm trying to tell you, family, you got to watch the finesse. Your question is basically challenging the category itself. Who exactly counts as brown, and why is that label treated as politically unified when it contains multiple races and identities? That's a fair question. It says a few important distinctions. Help explain what's going on. First, Latino Hispanic is not a race in the U.S. census system. Yeah, I just recently came to that reality last week. It's considered an ethnicity. That means a Hispanic Latino person can legally and socially identify as white, black, indigenous, mixed race, Asian. Look at their options. Okay. So, yes, there are absolutely white Argentinians in the black and brown coalition, white Cubans in the black and brown coalition, white Mexicans in the black and brown coalition. That's all that matters right now. So the term brown emerged more from activist language than from precise demographic science. In practice, brown usually refer to, wait. So before we do that, who came up with the brown? Because again, that's a play on words, family. That's why they're trying to call immigrants black. They're trying to call African and Caribbean immigrants black for the same reason. They're calling white Latinos brown. Like it's a play on the psyche. That's all. Like it's they know they can't say white. And that's what the African and Caribbean people refuse to understand with us. It's like for us, it's black and white, and we don't trust white collectively because white has a horrible negative history in this country. So they refrain from using white and they'll say black. Okay, so Africans are black, Jamaicans black, and Hispanics are brown. They'll say anything but white because they know that they can't say, all right, we're gonna do this black and white coalition. Be like, oh hell no, 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 no. Okay. It says, but politically, the term often gets broadened to include almost all non-black Latinos, regardless of race. That's where the ambiguity comes in. Your criticism is that this creates a coalition where Black Americans are treated as a distinct racial group with a unique historical experience. Slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, etc. Now look, catch that finesse. So they're gonna use our black as a race, but politically, but then make up a new category for them. That just makes no sense. So if brown is made up just for the political sense, then why not just make up something for us? Why use black when you know black is being treated in this country as a race for the country, the government purposes, their convenience, and as an ethnicity for Black Americans. While brown becomes a catch-all category. So look, Black Americans are treated as a distinct racial group with a unique historical experience, slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, etc. So don't forget, family, when they're saying Black, they're using that as a race. So when they say Black and brown coalition, they're literally saying everybody from Africa, everybody from the Caribbean, and then white Latinos. Okay, so while brown becomes a catch-all category that includes many people who may be racially white, socially white adjacent, or economically aligned with mainstream white society. That critique is not uncommon. Some Black American commentators argue that the coalition assumes shared interests that do not always exist. Many Latino populations historically identify as white or pursued assimilation to whiteness. Anti-Blackness exists in parts of Latin America and among some Latino coalitions more than Black specific issues like reparations, policing, or wealth and inequality. Historically, there have been moments where tensions surface around competition for jobs. That's always, but they ain't taking your jobs though, but we're competing with them, okay? How does not taking your jobs? If we got to compete for something that should not be available to you, that's taking. School sources, political representation, voting priorities, affirmative action, immigration policy. At the same time, supporters of Black and brown solidarity argue that many Latino groups also face discrimination. Stop. You see? So look, instead of fighting discrimination just for Latinos, Latinos fight discrimination. Family, what we're seeing is that nobody fights without us. Everybody got to include us in their fight. Hey, if Latinos are facing discrimination, then go handle that. Go fight. Go fight. Why are you tagging us into your fight? Hashtag tagging us, adding us. Get up out of here, man. If y'all having some issues with the government, you go fight. But you know what's crazy? Is that instead of them fighting the government, showing us, all right, you're about to buck up against the system. Nope. They include us in there. And then they try to make it like it's our fight. They have the problem with these issues with the American government. And then they'll tag us, hashtag us into it, and then make it our fight. And then frame it as our fight. Yeah, man. Hey, wait a minute. I thought it was your fight. And we just had your back. Making sure you catch the 1v1, the fade, nobody jumps in. Now you're making it ours? No. It says, but your underlying point is really about the difference between racial coalition and political coalition. Man, be quiet. So you see, so now it's not really explaining the political coalition. It says political coalition can include groups with very different identities and even conflicting interests if they share short-term. We don't share a short-term goal, man. Political strategists often use umbrella. Like, no. Like, it's a play on words. You're saying you're using, look, they made up brown to fit white people in that category while using, so now brown ain't a race. It's a made up political word that they're talking about, a made up political category that includes white people. But then they're using Black as a race still. So Black operates as a race, but this brown operates as a political box that includes anybody. Like, stop. Not falling for that. Not falling for that. Not fall. Yeah. So ChatGPT is trying to act like they don't understand what I'm saying and whatever. Like, I'm talking about the finesse in words, my guy, the confusion. Like, they're trying to be literal. No, Black is a race. I know that, fool. But why are they using Black as a race for us, but using brown as a race for them? Why not just say Black and white coalition? And just yeah, why not just say Black? Why not, if you're gonna use race for us, use it for the other folks. Say Black and white coalition. Say, hey, some white people are also being discriminated against. See, because they know we're not gonna buy that. Because we know it's the whitey people who do the discrimination. It's the whitey people who do the exclusion. That's why they're not gonna say Black and white coalition. hey, there's some whitey people out there being discriminated against. We're gonna say how. Oh, because Latinos are also white. Africans also are white. Ethiopians are like what? So it what I mean? Then folks start to catch on. Then the more questions. Wait, how are Ethiopians white? Oh, see, white is just a self-identifier. That's all. It's a race. It's not built on your ethnicity or any genealogical records, any DNA. You just say you are, and we accept you as that. Anybody but Black Americans can be white politically in this country. Yeah, so it's nothing else to read off that. So that's why we got to get the racial categories, the words right, correct. And if folks are hell bent on extending Black to immigrants, then that's an issue. That's an issue. And some folks can't see it. They're not there yet, or they don't know how to attack it. Then they got to tune in over here. Then that's including Jason Black, Tariq Nasheed, everybody, because it looks like Hood Smart caught on. It looks like FBA Gatekeeper Radio caught on. So some FBAs are actually catching on. So like we need the loudest platforms to catch on and make these arguments. I'm not sure Black Alpha's take on that or Afro Elite, but I know Tariq is caught on. He's caught up in calling these people Black, and we got to fix that. I'm telling you, that blur ain't gonna leave. There's no way to delineate while not delineating the word Black. At least put it in the air to look at. You could put it together in a safe way where you're not saying they're not Black, so they won't do some political campaign to try to say you against Black people. You're not gonna do. But you could put it out there, like, hey, just put out there, hey, you guys are racially Black, right? Are you ethnically Black? Yeah, okay, how? And just explain have them fumble on that. Have immigrants fumble on how how they're gonna explain they're ethnically Black, and even explain how they're even racially Black. So that's why I proudly say there are no Black people outside of Black Americans. Now that comes with an explanation. So if you want to know the explanation, then join the panel. Why do I say that? And why is that correct? So at this moment, because I ain't got my headset on, you can click the Zoom or the TikTok. Both can be heard from each other. Because I haven't clicked the the Zoom link. I'm sorry, I haven't used the headset. Okay, so anybody can join any panel. Yeah, but okay, so it's called the Castle Garden, America's first official immigration depot. Oh, I missed this part. Share my screen. So Castle Garden, located in Battery Park, Manhattan, was America's first official immigration depot, processing over 8 million immigrants, roughly 75% of U.S. total, between August 3rd, 1855 and April 18th, 1890. It served as a state-run facility to protect new arrivals before the federal government opened Ellis Island in 1892. Um, let's see. Oh, okay. Demographics. Here's the important part I didn't read. The demographics where the largest groups were German, Irish, English, Swedish, Italian, Scottish, Russian, Norwegian, Swiss, and French. Okay. About 20% of Americans can trace their ancestry to someone who passed through Castle Garden. 20%. I wonder how many can trace Ellis Island. how many Americans can trace white tea Americans can trace their lineage from Ellis Island? Think. Yeah, why do crackers be screaming and shit? All they do is yell, man. Okay, so about approximately 40% of all US immigrants, so cat 40% of Americans are immigrants, T Americans. 60% of white T Americans are um immigrants. So I'm just gonna fact check that. Just gonna fact he man is an immigrant. I guess that's why Tariq Nasheed be asking, where you from? He clicked the thing by mistake. 60% white T American are from immigrant. Yeah, why do people always bring up Donald Trump, father immigrating from Russia, from Germany? I'd be like, yeah, that's not the same. Like he came legally. He came through Ellis Island. That's he didn't sneak into the country. Uh, okay, he said, but it doesn't directly prove that. Why? The figures are likely overlapping and represent a much bigger portion of the total. Okay, so experts believe as many as 100 million plus Americans, around 40% of the total population, have ties to Ellis Island alone. These figures do not account for immigrants who arrived through other ports, Boston, blah, 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 blah. While a high percentage of white Americans and Americans of other backgrounds have immigrant ancestors, the 60% figure is a simplified addition of two distinct historical data sets rather than a direct calculation of total immigrant descent. Okay, all right, whatever. That's your way to explain it away. Let me see what AI mode says. Okay. Yeah, I knew they'll do semantics at some point. Like, no, I wasn't trying to be semantical. All right, so 20%. I don't know how that's not 60, but whatever. It looks to me, it looks like to me, 60% of white tea people come from immigrant background. And that's like recent. That's like recent. They saying 20% from yeah, I don't know, man. It's looking like that's the case. But all right, let me ask Chat. Let me waste a search on Chat GPT. Let me see. Let me defer to Chat. Let me see what Chat GPT gonna say. Um, got a bunch of typos, but I'm not gonna fix them. That hunger bug is coming along. That hunger bug is hitting. That hunger bug is different. All right. All right. So let's do Chat GPT real fast. And don't forget, TikTokers and YouTube, you want to support $ unbiased Ron. Okay, here it said your questions involve several different historical concepts that are easy to mix together. Immigration processing centers, ancestry percentages, assimilation, and demographic change. Here's a careful breakdown. It says, does that 60% of white Americans come from does that mean 60% of white Americans come from immigrant backgrounds? Not exactly. The statement, 40% of Americans can trace at least one ancestor through Ellis Island, 20% can trace at least one ancestor through Castle Garden. Does that mean 60% of white Americans are immigrants? Or 60% of white Americans can only trace those ports? Okay, let me move that out of my way. I can't see. That Zoom control is annoying. The meeting control. Okay. It says why. It said, can you move? Many Americans have ancestors from both periods. At least one ancestor can overlap heavily. Ellis Island and Castle Garden mainly process European immigrants arriving in New York, but many whites arrived before those systems existed through other ports or during colonial America. For example, English colonists in Virginia and New England came along before. Yeah, we ain't talking about the 1600s. Okay. Scottish immigration peaked in the 1700s. We ain't talking about that. Germans came through multiple ports. French, Dutch, Spanish, and others often bypassed New York entirely. We ain't talking about them. These are the Western and Northern Europeans. So the actual percentage of white Americans with immigrant ancestry is much higher. No, it's semantic. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not talking about this right here at all. I'm talking about this. See, so then that's a waste of a search. Cause now I gotta say, hey, I'm only talking about this. I'm not talking about the colonizers, man. Okay. The difference between Castle Island and Ellis Island, 1855, 1890. Most immigrants were Irish, German, Scandinavian, some Chinese, and others. There we go. And there we go. And here are the Irish potato famine migration, German revolutions of 1848, early industrialization. Okay. 1855, 1890s, Lower Manhattan, NYC, first official immigrant processing center. There we go. That's important right there. And then you have Ellis Island, 1892, 1954. Processed over 12 million immigrants. This era brought many Italians, small hats from Eastern Europe. Yeah, so this is when I want y'all to see that. I want y'all to see that Ellis Island had produced this is what they call them. This is what white American call them. They call them the undesirable Europeans, the Southern and Eastern. You see, these are the Southern Eastern came through Ellis Island, and before then, they had the more favorite um, Europeans, the French, the Dutch, Spanish, Germans, Scottish. So they seen them as Anglo, but they didn't see these right here as Anglo. They see them as tainted. Okay, so when did blacks outnumber whites in America? Nationally, black Americans had never outnumbered white Americans in U.S. history. However, there were specific regional periods when black population exceeded white populations. South Carolina, okay, Mississippi and Louisiana. What percentage of white ethnic groups struggled tracing lineage because of assimilation? There's no exact percentage, but assimilation absolutely caused many white Americans to lose detail ethnic identity over generations, especially among English Americans, Germans, Scott Irish, mixed European descendants. While lineage became difficult, intermarriage, European ethnic groups heavily mixed over generations, German and Irish, Italian, Polish, English, Scottish. Anglicization, many immigrants changed names, Muller to Miller, Schmidt to Smith. Oh, wow. Kowalski, Coleman. I know a lot of Germans did that and a lot of small heads. White identity absorbed ethnic distinctions. By the mid 1900s, many groups previously seen as distinct Italians, Jews, small hats, Irish, Slavs gradually became socially categorized simply as white Americans. Right? Before modern digitization, records were inconsistent. Immigration, paperwork changed names, census category shifted. The difference between white ethnic identity versus black. I didn't ask that question. Hmm. I did not ask that question. But look at these fools right here.
Facing
Go. I clicked it. Go.
Now at 6, ATM ambush. Two men are facing years in prison for luring and attacking ATM repair workers here in Washington. Good evening, I'm Preston Phillips.
And I'm Molly Shen. Their crimes were captured on bank surveillance cameras that we are now seeing for the first time. New photos also show the suspects brag about their crimes online. KOMO's Jeremy Harris is live at the federal courthouse with this story tonight. Jeremy.
This was really a...
Now, you know you were dusty. I mean, like people, if you're gonna be a criminal, like, dude, do that in your privacy. Why would you be a criminal, do crime, and then post it online? For me, that explanation is because they've always been known as dusties in their neighborhood. So they want to finally be seen as not a dusty. So this is why some of these guys post their crimes online when they get some type of monetary value from it. So now nobody look at Ray Ray as dusty anymore. Okay, Ray Ray finally leveled up. Like, they just can't be seen as dusties but still have like criminal wealth. Like, to them, it's important to not be seen as dusties no longer. Like, that really traumatized them. Crazy work. Dudes over here snatching up ATMs and then posting the dollars to their face. You know, like the phone money. The phone money flex. All right. So if anybody from African origins, African country, anybody from the Caribbean, TikTok, if you got any questions, FBA, any statements, this is the time to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna close out on TikTok in a second. So this is the time. If you guys got an issue or a question or a compliment, whatever, FBAs, let it be known now I will invite you up. But it got to be known now. Yeah, they trying to confuse us, Buck Horse. Got Taya Carter. We got Big Game, Oren, Orenthal James, Captain Private, Needle Swain, Kip DR, Ricardo Flott, Big Chief in the building. Miss Hart stepped in, Real Blackmatic came through. Who else? Guillory, Still Tripping, Paul Gain. Who else came through? I can see A Humble Servant, Crystal Watson, Lord Mall. They all came through to show love. I didn't check the like button, but hopefully the like button was lit. Yeah, so I'm at the stage now. So TikTok, nothing. Nobody wanna say anything. So I'm FBA. I'm about my FBA business. If anybody had any questions about FBA talking points, are we divisive, xenophobic, diaspora wars, this is the time to ask for an invite up on the panel. Okay. If y'all got an issue with Tariq Nasheed, maybe he says something you want answers for. You want to get a FBA explanation, interpretation. You think we're the dog whistlers of Tariq Nasheed. Okay, fine. Come up and we can speak about that. We can speak about that. Before we get ready to go. Teflon Sean, what's up? Man, hanging out, chilling. Hunger pain starting to get to me. Yeah.
Divisive, divisive. You know what I'm saying? And we need to keep on with the doing. That's the best thing for us.
You up north, right? You got any African friends that you talk co-workers, people you work with? Okay, right. You ever defend any Africans or Latinos? Well, let me not set you. I don't know if you can say that. Let me not set you up. Okay.
Keep it, you know what I'm saying? The thing is, that's more honorable than how they do. You know what I'm saying? They fake like they mess with us. You know what I'm saying? But they don't. You know what I'm saying? They make it a habit of undermining us. They have destroyed us in the past, as far as like the housing and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that fake and that fake black and brown coalition is like disrespectful.
Oh God.
Yeah, watch your language on TikTok. You gotta be like you gotta talk like you talking to like a 3-year-old. And TikTok, you gotta talk like you are like in talking amongst 4 or 5-year-olds. So you can't say a lot of things. Like just imagine talking to a 5-year-old. Like that's the language you gotta use on TikTok. Which is good. It helps me work on my language. Cause I was getting too crazy at one point.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to get me a pair, man. Yeah, I'm gonna do some real journalism. I'm being Newark. I'm being all of those spaces. Oh yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Mhm. Oh, for Timu? I'm gonna get man. Put the link in the chat, man, or the YouTube chat. Let me.
Just all you gotta do is go to the team. You know what I'm saying? And just type in AI glasses, and you're gonna see. Yo, you spend a couple of hundred, you might get something that drive you somewhere.
Let me see.
Just take a look right now. Take a look. You're gonna be like, oh man, but just look what pop up.
Yeah, because I hate to go Timu and then get some BS, and then like I'm the type of guy I rather get the real deal. Because
Ron, if you look right now, you're gonna order before you get offline. You're gonna have a pair or a couple of pair coming.
how long it take to get here? Like 1,000 years? What Timu not based in China?
You know what I'm saying? Yo, when I ordered e-bike from them,
Yeah.
that's the good.
Unplug that. You say you got it in 2 days.
The most it'll take is like 1 to 2 weeks. And they'll tell you like right from the jump how long it's gonna take. But an item like that, they'll get that to you in like you'll have it in like 3 or 4 days, man. A week tops. And they give you a tracking number and all that. They give you alerts where it's at.
Hey, chat, will y'all buy Timu glasses or would y'all rather buy the real deal?
They got the real deal. They got any kind of brand you want. They got that fancy stuff. Yo, they got the AI. Mine got the AI translation. So when I'm on the subway and people are talking, I can like switch to whatever language I think they're talking, and I can hear everything.
Wait, so it has like an earbud?
It's the glasses. You know what I'm saying? You can play your music on it, answer your phone.
Wait,
You know what I'm saying?
So, but how are you listening to things?
Just hit the AI. Hit the AI button. There's 2 buttons. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm saying, but how is it being heard?
It's AI built in the glasses.
But it go to your
what are your video capabilities?
Does it go to your brain or does it go to your ear?
Go to your ear, man. It's in the glasses. It's like right by your ear.
Okay.
In the frames.
So other folks can hear it too.
Barely. I thought they could, but they can't. And then you can control the volume and everything.
Man, that's dope. The translation thing.
Yeah, definitely. Go Mandarin, Cantonese, Arabic, Spanish, Puerto Rican or Dominican or Argentinian or Spain, Mexican, however they kick it.
And it'll say it in English?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
Check them out, man. All you gotta do is go to the search bar and type in AI glasses. Bam, you there. Shows you their capabilities. A little video slide, picture slides, videos on them, all that. You can really look into them and see what they do. You don't want one that got baby girl's a wife face with peeking eye. Hang on a second, I gotta talk to the wife.
All right. Sean, I'm yeah, so I'm gonna close out on TikTok. I'm gonna do YouTube for a little while, then I'm hopping off. All right, thank you.
You too. Hey, yo, Ron, I'm gonna catch you on YouTube.
Okay. All right, TikTok, I'm out of here. Yeah, because I plan on leaving this destination. I can't take both. I got to choose one or the other. All right, peace.
I was streaming. I mean, I was on the podcast.
Yeah, once I start moving around, I can't take both with me. So either I got to be TikTok on the phone or TikTok.
Concentrate as a people.
Oh my God.
Concentrate my.
I can't stand about, yo, if you think IG is bad with throwing videos, random videos, what you call is bad too. What's up, Swerving?
What's up, brother?
What it
You
do,
hear me, Ron?
my brother? Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Hey,
Yeah, I
I
can
was
hear you.
gonna tell you though. He was talking about those. They have headphones that will do the same thing, bro. They like earbuds.
What?
That'll
You said headphones?
translate. Yeah, they're
Oh, word?
earbuds. They'll translate. You don't even need the glasses. You just get the ear. They like little earbuds. Pop them in, and somebody talking to you. They'll translate it right in your ear.
Wow.
So, yeah, look those up. I think they're about like $80. They're not even that expensive. Yep. Look for it. Look it up. All right, I'm gone.
All right, thank you, brother. Okay, now I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna YouTube that because that's like unfathomable. Like how that's gonna work real time. So I'm gonna download. I'm gonna download some videos of the AI translation glass and the earbuds. Damn, that's weird. That is crazy, yo. Yeah, I get those glasses, family. I'm gonna take this content thing to another level because I'm always like somewhere with something going on. Like just now where I'm at now, it was like a fender bender Christ, and I went over there, got nosy for no reason. Yeah, let me download some videos. Oh. Let me see what this is about before. Right now, I'm downloading a few videos on the AI glasses. Yeah, I can't wait to get a hold of one of these, man. Let me get back to these weirdos with the ATM guys.
All right, so I'm in the middle of reviewing these new iPhones, which are pretty interesting.
I did not click that.
But
I did not click that. I did not click that. Is it gonna rain today? Team was decent. All Express might be better. I had bought something. I saw a shirt or something from one of these. I don't think Timo was around, but I'm traumatized for now. I bought a shirt from one of these Chinese companies. It took 1,000 years to get here, and then when it finally get here, it was nowhere near the way they had it looking on social media. And I should have known better. I'm like, wow, this dope fly shirt for only $2. Oh, I'm about to order 4, 5, 10. Man, All right, family. Let me go get something to eat. I might be back on a little later. Not sure. But I am sure I gotta eat. I'm starving. So I'm gonna get at y'all a little later. Be one to the family. Stay on code. Stay away from these toxic channels. That's clout chasing off the name. That's clout chasing off Tariq Nasheed. And stay off the so-called FBA spaces who are exploiting us in the worst way possible. Guys looking like straight fools for clicks and views, family. Call them out. If you're going to visit them at all, it's to call them out. Tell them cease and desist.